crucial, the true color of the year is not what Pantone wants us to believe. It's not white, but is the light blue. At least looking at all the spring makeup releases from all luxury brands. We have Yves Saint Laurent, we have Byredo, Chanel, but also Dior. They're all releasing these palettes with light blue. And I confess I'm tempted to buy something. I'm especially attracted by the Vesuvio palette, but it's overwhelming because I'm only interested in those light blues just because they are trendy. That's the truth. And I'm also attracted by that light blue in the Chanel Quad. So these are palettes that I had anti-hold in the past, but now that this color is recurring, those are the most beautiful formulas in my opinion, Byredo and Chanel, because Chanel, that Quad by Chanel, is in the Argelé formula. But you know, when you love a certain line, in my case Suqqu, and you say, okay, I will buy all the colors available because I want to have all of them in this formula. That's maybe before you discover other things. So it is not an approach that I do anymore. But 10 years ago, when I purchased Suqqu, I was so mesmerized by the thin texture of these eyeshadows that I literally purchased them all, at least what was available at that time. And one of my first purchases was this limited edition that, has two colors that are present also in the Chanel Quad, and is a very light blue and this yellow, pale yellow. These are very spring color. Indeed, this was a spring release. It's very old. I don't remember the number anymore. And then these two colors were paired with this split pen with a taupe, and how beautiful it is, and a purplish brown. See the shine. We recently talked about silky eyeshadow, right? For example, the Louis Vuitton ones. These also deliver. But the problem with very light shades like these ones is that they tend to be a bit chalky. So that's why I wanted to rediscover all the light blues in my collection. And I have some considerations. First of all, it's not a flattering color on me. And I like when something that is not flattering, like especially this type of blue, when it's possible to sheer it out. And this formula by Suqqu, I think it is nice, but to sheer it out, I prefer the latest formulas that are more silicone. This tends to be a bit powdery, stays a bit powdery, but it may be the light color because the presence of white in these eyeshadows unavoidably makes them to look chalky. That's why the Chanel version, the new version by Chanel, is superior in my opinion. But we also have to take into account our coloring. Now, I'm not a clear season. If you have been color analyzed and you are clear, that means you have more saturation. Then these colors are very flattering on you. But in my case, I'm soft. I have a lower contrast in terms of coloring. And therefore, these are not truly my colors. That's why it doesn't make sense to me to spend even more money on these type of clear colors when I have already something in my collection. That's why the wise choice would be to save that money towards something that looks better on me. For example, even here, we have these two examples. This was a permanent quad by Suqqu. And this, you see, is darker and grayer compared to this one. So this is the clear version, and this is the softer version, the muddy version, let's say. This, as I told you in my video about Louis Vuitton, is one of my favorite color stories. It was a quad 1, 2, 3, and 4. And here there was another whitish color that is somewhere. But the trio is what counts. These buttery colors are a bit useless. I never use them. But the trio is what it counts. This was number 1, this was number 6, it was a permanent quad, and this was number 5. So these three were one of the first permanent quads that I purchased by Suqqu. And this was a limited edition. So clear and softer version. I think having a understanding of your coloring is better to, steer your choices and avoid to spend money or extra money on something that looks great, swatches great, but is not flattering. that what counts at the end of the day, right? Because usually makeup is something that you pull off. But I wanted to show some swatches just to play a bit with these colors. So swatches of light blues. Yeah, this is totally satisfying, and I'm so happy to have it in the Suqqu formula because it satisfies my desire. Hadn't I had this one, I think I would have purchased that Chanel Quad, but it's money saved. Let's compare it with, this is more of a steel blue. The other thing, this has a hint of blue, but looks almost whitish on me. And this type of coloring, when you are a bit more desaturated and you wear these type of brighter, clear colors, they may be aging. That's what it looks on me. So just be aware before purchasing. This is darker, is grayer. It's more flattering on me. I also have a fantastic curated palette that I want to share with you, and is this amazing palette here. This is a collection of eyeshadows that I collected over the time. Many things are discontinued here, but it's so beautiful, especially this quad. So this is a Suqqu coming from this palette. So is a purplish brown that pairs, in my opinion, beautifully with these light blues. And this is, from a museum of makeup, let's say. It's from Cliona. And at that time, Cliona had these palettes called Archeo palettes and Paleo palettes. They were handmade, and even the labels were handwritten. So this comes from one of those palettes. It was possible to buy singles. So I purchased the single from Canada. So expensive. I don't know how much it cost me, maybe 30 euros with the shipping, taxes. Yeah, it was that time I was willing to spend more on these things. This was way before they jumped into the multi-chrome wagon. They released the first multi-chromes on April 2019. I remember that vividly because I was there. I was ready to buy something. But this is back to 2017, so almost 10 years ago. And this was the Celestial one. Is another light blue, more pigmented than the Suqqu, and I prefer the Suqqu because I prefer to sheer out the color. I prefer this intensity on me because it's just a hint of color instead of this brighter, more metallic type of eyeshadow. But it's beautiful, is what you expect from indie eyeshadow, and even after 9 years is fantastic. Then other blues. This is another masterpiece. This comes from the Colourpop, from the Limoncello palette. It's an old palette again. And this is such a unique shade of blue. It's a matte, but so unique. And I will swatch it here. It has some gray, but is mid-tone, great color. And then Luxie Fog, another, doesn't exist anymore as a brand. A grayish blue-gray. Looks more similar, is more muted compared to the blue in the Colourpop palette. Another curated single here. This comes from Sydney Grace and Temptalia collection. This is in Armani blue. Look how beautiful it is. But I used the wrong finger. Oh gosh, let me change. Beautiful metallic blue. We are going deeper here. I have a Bobbi Brown, and this was from a palette that I depotted. Here we are in the type of eyeshadow with a darker base and glittery light blue sparkles. Very pretty. And this one, I think, is another depotted one. No, is a single and is from Glam Shop. It's a Poland brand, Walika. It's called. And indie type of eyeshadow. I don't use them a lot because they're too punchy for my liking, but I want to show them. So the indie ones are the most shiny. Then there's the Bobbi Brown that's also glittery. Also, this is an indie, right? Because it's Sydney Grace by Temptalia, Luxie, Colourpop, and these are the Suqqu ones. These are more my type of blues because you can see desaturation and darkness here. Those light blues or silvery ones, too light for me. Silvers are aging for different reasons. They enhance the blue under my eyes. They remind of gray hair. So I prefer this type of darker and muddier blues rather than clearer, brighter ones. And so if I have curated this collection with mostly darker or desaturated type of blues, there's a reason for that. Is that these are more flattering for me. That's why going through your collection and your choices is refreshing, and it's something very helpful in case you are tempted by the new shiny thing, you know? So I'm curious to know what you think about. Let me add the Louis Vuitton, okay? But I need to wash my hands. I want to add the two blues from Louis Vuitton so that I have a full perspective. So this is the darker blue. I wish I had some space here. It's the darkest of them all. And the glittery one, this cornflower blue with sparkles. Yeah, this is my least favorite by Louis Vuitton. It's the most glittery one, but I mean, if I want to go glittery, I go for these type of things, especially the Argelé one. Not for sure on this way with the sparkles that, I don't know, as I said in my Louis Vuitton video, they look so cheap. This is my selection of blues. And I think this one is going to the top drawer so that I can play with it this week and satisfy my desire of light blues. Play with them and be happy. Let me know if you are discovering, because of these releases, hidden gem in your existing collection. Let's play this game together. Until next time, bye.